information exchange. So one of my favorite tools for doing this is Zapier. Today, I'm just going to go over a very quick high-level explanation on automation. We're going to just give a brief overview of Zapier, talk about the history, some key terminology and concepts that may help before I start the demo, and just quickly go over the different plans available to us. Then I'm going to do an actual live demo and create what we call a Zap, and then we'll discuss some of the more advanced features of Zapier. So automation, in the technical world, we call it IFTT. If this, then that. That means if this happens, then do that every time automatically. Back in the day, in order for you to create automation, you needed a developer to program it. And this was costly and it took time. And it just wasn't that quick to do. But now with these automation tools like Zapier, this literally puts that in your hands. You're able to log in and create a Zap. Literally, you can create a basic Zap within minutes. So Zapier, this is a made-up word, right? And as Giulia mentioned, when I first looked at it, there were a couple ways you could have pronounced it. So the way to remember is it rhymes with happier. So Zapier makes you happier. And the word is also a play on the acronym API. API is Application Program Interface, which is a software intermediary that allows two applications to talk to each other, which is pretty much what Zapier does. A quick history, they started in 2011 in Columbia, Missouri. The group completed a startup seed accelerator, which is just a cohort that kind of helps and mentors small startups get their applications or programs up and running. So they did very well here. And then they ended up receiving a 1.3 million seed funding from venture capitalists. And they used that over these last 9 years or so to go from the initial prototype had 25 applications. Today, they have over 2,000 applications, which leads to literally billions of different combinations that you can use. And their integrations that are literally added almost weekly. Once you sign up and you're on their email list, I literally get emails every week, every other week saying new apps have been added or new integrations have been created. So just some quick examples of the type of Zaps that you can create. If you're using Calendly, which is a tool where people can schedule meetings with you, you can have a Zap that every time someone schedules a meeting, it automatically creates and sends them a Google Meet or a Zoom link. You could also have it where every time someone uses Calendly to schedule a meeting with you, their email automatically gets added to your MailChimp. MailChimp is a tool to keep your mailing list for your business. You can have it automatically send you personally text reminders to your phone. You can have it where every time you publish a WordPress blog on your website, it automatically creates a Facebook post with that blog, so you don't have to be the one to do that yourself. You can have it send you an email every time a spreadsheet is updated, or vice versa. You could have you can have it where every time an email comes into your inbox, it's added to a spreadsheet, or you could switch it and every time a spreadsheet is updated, it kicks off an email. Another example is if I know with one of the groups that I am a part of, when we have a webinar, we host it through Zoom and we have Zoom registrants, but then we also want to advertise on other platforms. So we'll put it on Eventbrite. But we don't want to have to look in two different places every time when we want to get a complete list of our registrants for our webinar. So we created a Zap where every time somebody registers through Eventbrite, it automatically registers them on the back end in Zoom. So we have that one location where we have all our meeting registrants. And then just other popular apps, as I mentioned, Google Sheets and Gmail. Then there's Twitter, Slack, MailChimp, Google Calendar, Trello, and Google Drive.
If I can interrupt for a second, I think one of the things that I really love about Zapier is that when you go in and you start an account, that it really kind of gives you some ideas of like what you can actually zap.
It does. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll show that in the demo.
That's awesome.
Sometimes it's hard to really think about how it can be useful to you. So definitely take some time and look around at their suggestions, and they'll give you some popular integrations for you to look through to get ideas.
Wow, thank you.
Just some terminology. As I mentioned before, a zap is just a term for the automation between apps. So if you link two apps together and create the details around that, that's called a zap. A trigger is the event that kickstarts your zap. So if you have a zap that every time an email comes in, there's some details added to your spreadsheet, the trigger is an email coming in. On the other end, you have action. The action is what happens after your trigger. So a new email comes in, a row is added to your spreadsheet. That action is the row being added to your spreadsheet. A task is when you look at the whole trigger and action combination, that's a task. So if every time an email comes in, a row is added to your spreadsheet and you get 10 emails that day, you actually had 10 tasks that day. And that count is important when you're trying to decide which plan works best for you. App, I think we're all familiar with, it's just a short name for application. An editor is the actual tool that you use to build the Zap. And the important thing here is there's no programming needed. Just very click and drop and easy to do. This is just a screenshot from the website. You could look at the website for more details. Just wanted to point out that there are 5 plans listed here, but there's actually more. For example, in between this $19.99 and $49 plan, if you click this little drop down here, if you see me, my circle, there's another plan in there. So it's easy to miss. I didn't want to point that out. There is a free plan that is forever free, but you are limited. I think it's 5 tasks, 100 tasks and 5 zaps you're limited to. Then actually I'm going to switch here. This is a little small, but I just wanted to point out that with step zaps, meaning you could only, every trigger can only have 1 action. But if you go to the starter plan, you could have zaps where every trigger has multiple options. Like I want a row added to my spreadsheet and I want a text. And you're also able to do filters and formatters, which are more advanced options that I'm actually going to go over later in the demo. And then there's a professional plan. Added to that are custom logic paths, which again, I'll discuss later on. But I think most people will fall somewhere between the $19.99 and the $49 plan. And as I mentioned, there is another plan in between there. You just have to find it. And with the $49 plan, you get unlimited zaps. So now I actually wanted to jump over to a demo. I'm already logged in to one of my Zapier accounts that I use for my collaboration. So here, as Giulia mentioned, there's a couple ways to start a Zap. You can go here to this, which is like somewhat of a quick start, and you could say, connect this app. You could either scroll down or start typing. Once you start typing, it'll fill in the rest and give you everything that falls under those letters. So let's say I wanted to create a Zap where every time an email comes in, I update a spreadsheet. So I want to say, connect this app Gmail with this one, with Google Sheets. And then it says when this happens, so when I get a new email, then do this. Then I want to create a spreadsheet row. And then you click on Use Zap. So now this is the editor. This is where you're going to start filling in more of the details behind what you want to do. Or I'm just going to go back. Oops. Go back. Another thing you could do if you scroll down a little bit, it says get started with our most popular workflows. You can kind of scroll through this, as Giulia mentioned, and get some ideas of different integrations that they have out there. So that helps. And then you click on use workflow and you'll get to the editor. Or you could just go here to your left-hand menu and say, make a zap. So when you click on make a zap, you kind of get to the same editor that I mentioned before, but this time you're actually entering your application here. So again, I'm going to say, I'm going to start my trigger. So my trigger is in Gmail. When a new email comes in, so I'm just going to select that, hit continue. And then it's going to ask you which Gmail account do you want to use. So I've already added my collaboration Gmail. So it's already here for me. I'm going to select that, hit continue. And then it asks you, do you want every email that comes into your inbox, or do you want to select one of the different folders that you may already have set up? So I'm just going to select everything that comes into my general inbox. Hit continue. And now it's going to say we're going to test your trigger. So what they're going to do now, they're going to reach into your Gmail, select one email that you may have. And the most important thing here is this message. We found an email. So that was successful. You can pretty much skip all of this. This is just a lot of just some background information that you can bypass. And you just want to hit continue. So now you're creating the other side, the action side. So what do you want to happen when the email comes in? I want to update my Google Sheet, right? So I select a Google Sheet, and it's gonna, now you have to put the actual action that you want in the Google Sheet. So I wanted to, you could create a spreadsheet row, you can update a spreadsheet, you can create a new worksheet, and there's multiple options that you can scroll through. But in this case, sorry, I'm going to say I want to create a spreadsheet row. Hit continue. Then it's going to ask you for your account that you're using for this Google Sheets. I'm going to select my collaboration again, hit continue. It's going to ask you which drive is it on. So I'm going to select that. Now it wants the name of your spreadsheet. So I already set one up here for this called Zap Demo. So I'm going to choose that. The worksheet is the actual tab in your worksheet. If you're familiar with Excel, you can have multiple tabs. But if you only have one tab, it kind of just defaults to sheet 1. So I'm going to select that. And then if you look here, these 4 fields here are the actual fields that are in my Google Sheet. It pulled it in. So I actually have my Google Sheet open on this tab, right? Name, email, date, and subject. So the
yeah.
Yeah, it pulls in the tab, because what you need to do now is you have to map the fields to each other. So it says you have a name column in your Google Sheet. Where do you want to get the name from? So it's going to use that test email that it pulled in, and you're just going to select where you want the name. And this is actually an email from Barb, who is also part of Known, on her upcoming webinar. So it just happens to be the last email that came into our collaborations group. So I want to get the name from here. Then you want to tell it where to get the email address from. So again, I'm going to look through this test email and select from email. It's going to ask me for the date. So then I'm going to look through, and it just makes it easier with the test email, because you can actually look for the field that actually has the date in there, and you know it right. And the last thing I'm going to choose is the subject. I want my subject stored. So I'm just going to find the subject field and select it. And that's pretty much it. You just mapped all the information that you want added to your spreadsheet. Hit continue. This is just a summary of everything that you just did. So you just want to glance, make sure everything's okay. And then you want to test it. So you want to hit test and continue. And this green message says a test spreadsheet row was sent to your Google Sheet. So if I go to my Google Sheet, there it is. It's a little small. Let me make that bigger. So it just, there's some formatting needed, but if you could see here, it just added that test row to my spreadsheet. And literally, that was it. You just created your first Zap. Now, there could be different reasons why you may want a Zap like this. Maybe you want someone to monitor your emails without having them actually have access to your emails. But this was pretty much everything. The only thing left to do now is turn on your Zap. It's defaulted to off, so you have to turn it on in order to for it to start running. This is just a marketing, if you want to share what you're doing with others. So you can just X out of that. And it says your Zap is on. The one last thing that you need to do is name your Zap. I usually just name it just what it does. I'll say Gmail to Google Sheets. And that's it. Then I'll hit go to my Zaps. And it's this one here that we just created.
Wow. So that literally took, I was looking at the clock on the bottom of my screen and it took 5 minutes to do that. Well, that's it.
Yes. And this was with me, going a little bit slower and explaining it. So I could probably do this in 2 minutes.
Wow.
Especially once you go through it once or twice, it gets a lot easier. So you could also go here to your task history, and you could actually see your Zaps that you created. You can go into your task log and see the number of different tasks that were, each task that was done. You can see that here. You can go, you have a dashboard. Your dashboard, actually no, if you go to your Zaps, again, all your Zaps are here to your right. You can see whether they're on or off. When you go in and make any major change to your Zaps, it will automatically turn it off. So you'll have to go in and turn it back on again. There's just one thing to remember. And that's everything.
Wow.
I could create another Zap. We could do another one quickly. Let's say you want to send yourself a text, right? Every Monday morning, or let's say every Friday. I do Financial Fridays. So let's say I want to send myself a text every Friday morning saying, hey, it's time to update QuickBooks, right? I can go, and so this time it's not app to app, it's a schedule. I could choose Schedule by Zapier. My trigger is every week, right? Every week on Friday at 8 a.m. It's going to ask me to do a test, and they found the day of the week. So we hit continue. And then it says, what do you want to do? So I want to send myself a text. So that's SMS by Zapier. Right, so my action is to send the text. Hit continue. And it asks you for your account. So I actually already have this set up. So I already entered my phone number into Zapier. So that's what this is. Hit continue. From number is just, if you want a single number that the text is from every week. So if I pick this one here, the 650 area code, I could then just save that as a contact in my phone, so I know it comes from Zapier. And then you type the message. Let's say I want to remember to update books. I hit continue. Let me just, I have my phone right here. Let me turn it on. So I'm going to hit test and continue. And if you heard that, that was just my text that went off. So the text went through successfully. And then I click turn on Zap. So now, every Friday morning at 8 a.m., I'm going to get a text that says, remember to do QuickBooks. And then, of course, you have to name it. So you can use this for yourself. You could use this if you're working with a team, you have consultants or employees, and you want to send them a regular email. Another thing that my collaboration is actually going to use it for is we have a MailChimp account. So in MailChimp, you can create a campaign that sends an email out, and you could schedule your email. So I can create a campaign today on, what's today, Tuesday, and say, send this out on Friday. But what MailChimp is not able to do is give you the ability to send it every Friday. So I could use Zapier and do the same schedule by Zapier and schedule that campaign to go out every week on Friday automatically. So it kind of helps with some of the limitations that other apps may give you.
That's quite an enhancement too.
Yeah.
And I was noting earlier I had muted my mic. That was definitely, that last Zap was under 2 minutes. So you just did, 2 Zaps within 5 minutes and, saved yourself hours of time, right? Because if you multiply every Friday, 52 weeks, it's like, that's done. Grabbing all those emails, that's done.
Yep. So it saves you time and it prevents you from forgetting, because that happens too.
Yeah, exactly. With all the things that you have to do.
Yeah.
How many Zaps do you have? A bunch of Zaps, right? Or a bunch of...
We do. We use PayPal to MailChimp. So anytime someone signs up for a membership in PayPal, it automatically adds them to our MailChimp email list. Then we have PayPal to a member spreadsheet. So anytime somebody, again, signs up for a membership in PayPal, we have a running spreadsheet with all our members. And a lot of these are just practice Zaps that I was working on before. But yeah. This is my collaboration. Then I have my personal one that I also use for my business. One of the Zaps that I have is I have a email reminder sent to my tenants every month to remind them to pay their rent. If they're late, I have a spreadsheet that tracks it. So every time I go into the spreadsheet and update the spreadsheet to show that the rent didn't come in yet, it would automatically trigger a reminder email to them. So that saves me a lot of time every single month. And I'm also still learning more. Every time new integrations come out, I check and see if it's something that applies to me.
Right.
So it's pretty cool.
And a lot of these things are so important in that, like when you're talking about adding emails to a spreadsheet or adding emails to your MailChimp and that sort of thing. A lot of times these are things that people do forget or, don't, either they have it in their plan or in their strategy, but then it kind of falls off. And then all of a sudden when you have to look at a database or utilize a database, people's emails and information is all over the place. So this is like when you're starting to do these things, I'm sure it's like really thinking about what are the tasks that you want to make sure get integrated into the system. Yep. So that you can do other things.
Exactly.
Perform, yeah.
Yeah. So you want, I mean, all of this is, a lot of this is administrative tasks, right? You don't want to spend your time and energy doing this. You want to spend your time thinking of ways and doing things that are actually going to help grow your business, and thinking strategically. So this frees up a lot of your time and brain power to do that. So I just wanted to, there are, as I mentioned earlier, there are some additional features that I did want to go over, right? So one is multi-steps. So all the samples that I just did in Zapier were all single step triggers. You are able to do multi-step. So you could have, when the example here is when a new start message comes in to Slack, you want to create a task in Wunderlist, and you want to add that event to your Google Calendar. So you have two actions for that one trigger. You need at minimum the starter plan to do this. So it's not available in the free plan. They also have what they call paths. A path is conditional. So in this screenshot example, you have a Google form that's being updated. So let's say you have a question in the Google form that says, would you like additional information? And you could say, if the answer to that question is no, you want to do A, you want to just send that person an email saying, thank you for your time. If the answer is yes, right, maybe you want to do B, which is update a spreadsheet that has a tab labeled potential customers and add their name, address, and phone number to a spreadsheet. And if that person answers maybe you want to do C, and C could be maybe a separate tab and a second tab in your spreadsheet that says possible customers. So you could have 3 different actions based on the condition of the question or the trigger, based on the trigger response. And you could combine paths and multi-step. So you could say, if the person answered yes, add them to my spreadsheet and send them an email. If the person answers maybe, also add this to a different spreadsheet and send a different email with different wording. So there's multiple paths and multi-steps that lead to, they could end up being very complex zaps that you create. And to use paths, you need the professional plan, which is that third plan in that spreadsheet or higher. Another option is the formatter. So in formatter, you could take the information that's coming in and you can change it, right? So one example is if you want to format date and time. As you saw in the email example that I did, the date was, it showed the day of the week, the abbreviated day of the week, comma, and then spelled out the month, day, and year. So let's say you only want the month and the year, or let's say you want the short date. You want to drop the day of the week and just have 9/1/2020. So you can use the formatter to pull in the date and change the format. You could also split name or split text. Let's say you had an address coming in, but you don't want the whole address. You just want the city and state. You could split that out. You could use the formatter to extract email addresses, website links, and numbers from a string of text or paragraphs of information. You could extract just the pieces that you want. You can capitalize text the way you want. This is important if your action is an email that's being sent out. So let's say the information comes in and it's all caps and you want to change it to the appropriate capitalization, you can do that. And then you could find and replace any text. So this is done with the starter plan. You need at least a starter plan to use the formatter. Then we have filters and delays. So a filter is, you could trigger the zap only when a certain condition is met. So in that first example that I did, you could say, look at any email that comes into my inbox, but I only want the zap to trigger when the subject contains the word meeting. So there's a ton of combinations and filters that you can do that just limits when Zap is run. And then you can also put a delay on it. So there's 3 delay options. The first one, delay for, you could say delay for 5 minutes. So let's say you don't want, because some of these apps, especially with the higher plans, they literally run instantly. So somebody sends you an email and your action is to send an email back to them. It can literally happen within seconds. So maybe you want a little bit of a delay on there. So you could put a 5-minute delay, or you could delay for a day, a week, a month, or you could choose delay until. Delay until is more, I want to delay this Zap until this particular time. So I want to delay it until the last day of the week or the last day of the month. And then delay after queue is, it's a little bit more advanced delay. It's for if you're using paths and multi-triggers, it just makes sure that everything is triggered in the right order. So you don't want one step triggering before another. And for this one, you need at least the starter plan or above. So if I go back to my demo and open the trigger that we just did, email to Google Sheets. So you find these advanced functions right here. So instead of hitting continue, you would hit this plus sign. And if you're creating a multi-step trigger, right? If you want, after you create the spreadsheet, if you want to send yourself a text, you can click here and add that here. You'll do just add the scheduler. Right, you add the scheduler and continue. If you wanted to add a filter, the filter option is here. So let's say I only want the Zap run if the subject contains the word meeting. And then you could do multiple filters using this and or logic. I'll go back. Let's say you want to do a delay. The delays are here. So you could say delay for. So I want to delay this for 5 minutes. And that's it. You do that here. Or if you wanted, the other delay options are also here. So you have your delay until and your delay after queue. Everything is here. And then I also spoke about formatter. So the formatter, again, is here right under delay. So you could format numbers. You can format utilities. Utilities are like lookup tables, if you're familiar with Excel and their VLOOKUPs. There's a lot of functionality here. You can format date, time. So if I show you this one, so I want to transform, I want to format, or you could add, subtract time, or you could format the date. You pick your date field, which is here. So the date format right now is Monday, 31 August 2020 with the hour and the minutes, milliseconds. And then you go here, what do you want to format it to? So let's just say all I want is two-digit month, 2-digit day, and 4-digit year. You just pick that format. Then you just go through and select your time zones and just continue through the other fields and hit continue. So this will change. This will, when it stores that info in the spreadsheet, instead of seeing the date, this long date, you're going to see the short format that you selected. You can also, other format options are text, right? This is a text format that I talked about, and you can do a lot here. Here are all your options. You can capitalize, you can convert HTML out of the HTML format. You can extract email addresses, extract phone numbers, URLs. You could extract just the length of a string. You can make lowercase, you can make it plural, split text, title case, you could trim, truncate. So there's a lot of options here that you can select from. And the last one, this option, I don't have the account that allows me to do paths, but if you were to do paths, you would find that right here also. And once you click on this, it'll say, what's your first path? So you would say, the person answers yes, and then you select your action, and then you'll say the person answers no, and then you select your other action. So it's just pretty much as straightforward as what you see here. And that's about it. So the last thing that I wanted to say is to really think outside the box here. It's going to, if you use Zapier, you're going to easily think of the first couple of zaps that could help you, but there's so many options. Like anytime I find myself saying, oh, someone did this, now I need to do that. The next thing I think of, is there a Zap for it? So I'm constantly thinking how I can use this application even more. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I'm gonna look for questions, and it was funny because I had a question and then I forgot what it was, which always happens to me. But I do want to take this time while we're waiting for a couple of questions to come in to thank you for really taking the dive into this and how it works. And I think a lot of times people are afraid of using apps because it looks like it's a lot of work and, oh my goodness, do I have to learn a new thing? So I think it's really important to kind of show how it works and how it can be helpful and useful. And the other thing too is the application itself. I know when I'm looking at apps, one of the first things I really want to look at is the one thing that Zapier does do is, here are some ways that you can use our product. Like, definitely use a good portion of majority of people use Gmail. A majority of people will use some sort of like MailChimp or that sort of thing. And I think when we were talking yesterday, I was saying, oftentimes you're kind of pushed by the integration apps. I was saying like Teachable and MailChimp and WordPress and that sort of thing. It got to a point when I was trying to integrate things where the app was just basically like, yeah, in order to do this, you're going to have to use Zapier. Like, that's the thing that's going to connect these two, make these integrations happen. Yeah, but I think like overall, even not being forced into the situation by integrations, like you said in the very beginning, there's so many apps that you have to use for so many different reasons, and they do end up crossing paths in some way, whether it's using an e-commerce app or a payment app with an email app, signing up for things, any actions that people take, customers take. There's no one app that's going to do everything. Well, I guess except for Zapier. That seems to tie it together, right? What's the thing that's going to tie everything together? So you had talked about, just really quickly, because I know we had talked a little bit about, and you were talking about how you're always thinking now about how Zapier can help you with the actions, with the tasks that you would usually have to perform as admin tasks, which now you don't have to perform. Can you talk a little bit about kind of like what that process looked like once you got, like how did you decide, like, oh my goodness, like I need to use an app, I have to use Zapier, and then like from there it's like, what the, you train your brain, right, to do this. And I think a lot of people a lot of times people as business owners, they really have to think about like, I need to do this thing. What am I going to use? How am I going to use it? And how am I going to remember to use the thing that's going to help me? That was a lot of questions. You can pick one.
So a lot of times that comes from sort of a lessons learned. Something is forgotten. For the MailChimp one, we actually forgot to send out our regular weekly reminder email, right? So the first thing we did was go to MailChimp and say, okay, well, let me just see if I can schedule it to go out every week in MailChimp. And then we realized that MailChimp does not really have that functionality. So the next, our next thought process was, all right, well, maybe Zapier can do it. So we looked through there and we were able to find it. Other times is now literally anytime I find myself needing to do an action as the result of an email that came in or a meeting somebody scheduled with me, it's like now my brain is automatically trained to say, is there a time for that? So that comes over time. But initially it was just like, all right, I can't keep updating the spreadsheet manually. There has to be an easier way to do it. Yes. And now I've noticed too, some of these applications, they're even recommending Zapier. They're not even trying to do that functionality themselves. Like if you go into their help section and try to find a way, it'll tell you go and use Zapier. So it's this really is one of the most popular and easiest to use integration application.
Great, and I don't see any questions just yet. I do see Sammy Williams earlier. She had said that she loves Zapier. So I think hopefully we have some fans now. The other thing too is I just want to let everybody know, and Latisha, I'll let you know as well, that this is now out here forever. We're actually going to put this on our nhvknown.com website, so it'll be in the digital media section, so people can pick this up. And then, of course, if people have questions or comments as they are watching this later in the day or later in the week, just drop it in the comment section or ask us. And Latisha, did you want to, as we're kind of wrapping up a bit, did you want to say anything about what you're doing now with your organization and also with your business and how we can reach you? I'm going to put the screen back up. Here we go. So we have your contact information. I'm going to let you speak to that and what you do.
Okay, so I have my email address, my business number, my LinkedIn is all here for you. Feel free to reach out to me to connect on LinkedIn if you have any questions. I also wanted to give a shout out to my collaboration, the collaboration of Minority Woman Professionals. One of the other founders, Sammy Williams, is also on with me. And if you're interested in that, also send me an email and I'll get you the information. We have lots of webinars and financial panels coming up. And we're just an amazing group of women that we network, we collaborate, we share tips and ideas, and it's just a great space to be in. So if you're interested in anything, please feel free to reach out to me.
We already have a fan. I put up on the screen, Chris Tonsky. She said she can't wait to use Zapier, and she thanks you, Latisha, and also myself because I have the show. So there's that. So thank you. And actually, I wanted to take this time to let everybody know what the schedule is for the rest of the week. I'm sorry, the rest of the month. So next week, which will be September 8th, I still cannot believe it's September. Oh my goodness. So next week is September 8th, and I'm actually, Latisha, I'm going to have Barb Nangle from Higher Power Coaching, and she's going to talk about apps as well. So she and I had a conversation about just the fact that she had written a Medium blog as well about how she had been different apps that she had been utilizing to make her life and work life more manageable. So I'm super excited about that because I love anything that makes life more manageable. And then the following week, actually, Chris is going to be joining me. So that would be the 15th. And we had been talking back and forth a lot about how brick and mortar companies are more often now online, and what kind of like one of the formulas can be as far as having a website and e-commerce and integrating everything. So we're going to be talking about, actually Chris is going to be talking about, because she's the expert in this, WordPress and WooCommerce, and I believe Stripe. So what that particular integration looks like. So that's going to be the next couple of weeks on Digital Media Sync. If anybody has any topic that they are interested in or that they want to present on, just drop me a note. I am Giulia Gooch with Agents of Branding, and I'm going to drop my email down below, which is socialmaven@agentsofbranding.com. You can also drop a note to, that took a minute to get up there. I'm making sure I spelled it right. So socialmaven@agentsofbranding.com. There's Tim O'Connor, who just came in and said, thank you, very interesting and useful. So this is super cool. I would love to see how many people actually kind of take a little tour around Zapier and what they think and how it's helped them in their kind of day-to-day life and tasks and that sort of thing. Latisha, I want to thank you once again for joining me. This was super informative. I have to admit that I kind of go back and forth between I utilize Zapier for my clients and then not so much for myself, you know, the whole cobbler story thing there. But it helps me, understand, you know, yeah, we are busy. Entrepreneurs are busy, women entrepreneurs are busy, mom entrepreneurs are busy. Yeah. And yeah, to be able to have something that we can utilize to save some time and effort. So thank you very much for running through that for us. And I really appreciate it. And I'd love to have you back as well.
Yes, that was fun, definitely.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
And thank you. Thanks, everyone.